Welcome to Reviewed by Artists, a space where we embrace and share our journey as artists and creatives. I'm Jay, an artist myself, and today I'm in conversation with Noah, Monster Boy, who encourages us to just get out there and just do it whenever we feel we're not doing enough. Join us in this encouraging conversation.
Where are you now? I'm in Seoul.
Yeah, I'm in Victoria, BC.
Oh, amazing! I got into a residency in Vancouver Island, so I'm so excited to go there soon.
Wow, what residency did you get into?
It was a retreat, a position on retreat. That was the name of the residency. I don't know if you know that one.
Mm,
Position on retreat. I can send you a link later. And I think
cool.
Brad, he's the host there, and then he's the organizer, and then he's so awesome. He does like 3D modeling, 3D printing, AR, VR, all the kinds of like technology things. But I haven't done any like technology related arts before, so I'm excited,
Very fun. Yeah, it's a great place. It's really interesting.
right? It must be beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, it's snowing right now though, so
All
it's
right.
not the nicest weather out.
Hopefully not snowy that much in February. I'm gonna be there in February. Yeah, so soon.
Very soon.
Yes,
Congratulations.
soon. Thank you. What about you? Are you at home or are you doing another adventure?
Yeah, so right now I'm in my art studio. It is with Archive in Victoria, BC, and it's sort of like a collective of artists, and we all have our own little studio rooms. This one has got two big windows at the front, which I absolutely love. Makes
Oh,
sculpting really a lot easier when you have full light. But in a couple months, I'm going to be going to Europe, and
wow.
I kind of will be continuing looking into residencies there as I go, as well as sort of like finding residencies with like doing like work stays.
Uh-huh. Wow,
So that's sort of what's up next for me. So it's pretty exciting.
amazing. I'm so happy for you. Isn't it gonna be your first residency outside Canada?
Yeah, it will be.
Right? Oh, where in Europe?
I'm gonna go to Ireland first. I'm kind of like focusing on places that have histories with textiles and wool. So I really wanted to go to Iceland. I got a residency there, got accepted, but I didn't get the funding, which was too bad. I was so close, halfway there.
So like funding from the government, Canadian government. Oh, right.
Yeah. The Canada Arts Council will like yay or nay funding for art residencies.
Oh no, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. But
that's
you're
okay.
gonna find another one, right? Like another opportunity to apply for grants or anything.
Yeah, I've got a list. I've got
Uh,
stuff open. I've started filling out forms. So yeah.
Busy applying for all the different kinds of stuff, right? Every day. For me to say,
Yeah.
yeah, always applying for something.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I underestimated how much paperwork there was to be an artist.
Right. I mean, it's so much work. I mean, to be honest, I worked in a tech industry and then I've never done like this much like application fill up in my life ever. And I'm like, as an artist, I'm like, this is so much work.
Yeah.
Right? So much paperwork. I'm curious. I try to go to your website, but I don't think I have the access. So I couldn't like check like when or to where, like which residency you've been to, like in your
Right. Yeah, so I've been to the residencies. I've been to two in Victoria and one the Lethbridge one.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I was like, I don't have like tons of experience with
No.
like global, but that I did those all last year, and
Oh,
it was sort of like my first year as a practicing artist. I kind of was like, I want to build my portfolio, so I like quit my job and took a year off to make art, and it was really great.
oh my gosh. Like I'm on the exactly the same journey, like the same path. Like I just quit my job and then like I started doing my artist residency, international artist residency starting last year. And then this year is gonna be a second year. And then starting from Vancouver, I'm gonna go to New York, Brooklyn, and then like Lisbon and I don't know, like Berlin, like I don't know, like all lined up. So that's why I wanted to like start meeting up with artists and then who are doing residencies and then like listen to their stories.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good idea too because I find it hard to find sort of testimonials from artists who've done residencies, and
Right.
sometimes they're like in the middle of nowhere, and they look a little creepy on the website. But then I'm like, is it worth my time? And sometimes I'll message past artists, and they'll just like never get back to me. So I'm like, okay.
Oh, awesome. What was the best residency that you've done so far, or were they like all different and they're all great?
Yeah, I think they all came with their pros and cons.
Mhm.
I think that the Castle Lethbridge was probably my favorite. It
Oh, that's that. Mm-hmm.
felt like the most professional. They have this beautiful, brand new,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe not as new now, but it's this great sort of art space that hosts all sorts of different kind of artists. And the whole thing's a gallery too. So they have all this beautiful art showing all the time. And it's just like a great place to meet people.
Uh-huh.
And for such a small town, I was really blown away by how active the arts community was. So that was great.
That's so good. But was it like near your home, or like was it a bit far from where you live?
So I had to catch a plane into the next province to go to that one.
Uh-huh.
And it was my very, very first application I ever sent in for residency. Like I
Right.
sent it in a year before I went,
Uh-huh.
and they accepted me. And then I realized that not all residencies like give you a residence to stay in.
Mm.
So I was like, I don't have a place to stay, but they were really sweet. They ended up um, hooking me up with some friends of Casa, and I stayed with them for the month, and it was awesome. And they were really cool people.
Oh, amazing. I know, like
Yeah,
sometimes in residency they offer only studio spaces, right? And then not like a place to stay, right?
yeah, yeah. So I learned a very early on lesson there.
Right. Like so many details to read and yeah.
Yeah.
And then like how did you like come up with a list of the residency that you've been to? Like you said you applied for GASA a year before, but the what about the other ones? Like did it happen like just naturally? Like through
Yeah, like I would just kind of, because the other two were local to me and they didn't offer places to stay. So I was like, okay, this is achievable. I can make some art in my own town. This was prior to me having a studio, and I
right.
was just like working out of my bedroom. So it seemed like a great idea to take all my stuff, where it needed to be. And they posted open calls on their Instagram. So I was just like following them on social media. And there's this sort of like big artists collective. That was the first one. It was Greenhouse uh, Studio Residency, something like that, run by Sweet Pea Gallery. And that
Mhm.
was my very, very first one I ever did. And that was really cool. I was also the first person to have ever done it.
Oh,
So I had to lay a lot of groundwork of like setting up their social media. And I just felt like it was kind of like a fair trade because I was like brand new. I hadn't done anything like that before. And then my next one after that was one that has sort of like expanded since. It was by the North Park Association. And it was like this little shack that they had in the middle of the road. And it was December of last year or the year
December.
before. And it was freezing cold, and I wasn't allowed to have any
Right.
heaters
It
because it
was
was
a
like a fire
shack in
hazard. So I was like
December.
in the snow trying to needle felt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of like really different experiences with just the three that I've gone to.
Oh, right. So different, even in Canada. And then it was like all in the West Coast, right? Or in the West.
Yeah, yeah. Alberta's like Lethbridge is kind of getting into the prairies, but it's like the second most West Coast province.
Right. Oh, I see. But like, did you find yourself like more connected to your local community, art community, thanks to residencies that you've done? Because it was not too far away from home, and then like still like you got to know like new people and new network. I'm curious
Yeah,
how it changed your network, local community network.
yeah. It was definitely a really good place to start with local because then I was able to to build a really solid group of people that I know and can
Right.
still sort of like connect with even a year after the residency. Like the North Park Association, I still teach for them, which is great. They'll call me when they want classes, which is fairly regularly. And yeah, and CASA, like I still get like their open calls. Sometimes I think about putting stuff in their gallery spaces that they have there. So, and I've met a lot of people, like not just other artists, but also like repeat customers, clients for my art. So that's really cool. And I really cherish those.
Yes, for sure. And then like for the first one that you've been to, you were a first resident, right? You said, and then like you helped them to grow their social network, Instagram, like they helped you build your network and then recurring customers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
That's
that was a
great.
cool space because it was like in with a bunch of other art studios. So you were kind of able to piggyback off, oh, well, I'm going to see this other well-known artist in town, but I heard there's like this residency here, and then they would come and check me out. So that was great.
Oh my gosh, like what kind of events or activities that you found more helpful or interesting while doing the residency? Was it like open studio or exhibitions, mid exhibition, final exhibition? I don't know, like if they had
Mm.
both or only one.
I definitely think like because my sculpture is a little bit unusual, so I think it can really help people when they can interact with it. So I think open studios are really helpful for me. But also teaching classes. I've given artist talks a few times, and I'm happy to give artist talks. But I find whenever I do them, the institution that I'm doing them for never promotes them. So I feel
Oh.
like it could have like a way bigger turnout with more marketing. But I always end up being the one who does it all. So I'm kind of like so on artist talks right now.
I see. What are you most excited about your future residency in
Yeah.
Iceland? It was
Um,
Iceland, right?
well, Iceland was the one I got accepted into, but then didn't get the funding for.
Oh,
It's
right.
this really cool sounding one at this old textile school, and they had like these really old looms that they consider ancestors. And
Mhm.
Iceland also has a really particular relationship to the Icelandic sheep, so it's got this very specific sort of wool culture going on. So I was really interested in that. But Ireland is where I'm going in April, and so I'm connecting with. I'm kind of cutting out the middleman of the established residency and going right to sheep and alpaca farmers who offer work stays, and kind of like wanting to go make connections with the land and the sheep, and potentially get to use some of that wool to create something after.
Wow, amazing. So you've done a lot of research before going to the location.
Yeah. I think research is really important to me with the locations because sometimes you just kind of want to go somewhere, and I feel like I always am examining, well, why do I want to go there? Does it just look like a nice like holiday vacation, or does it look
Mhm.
like it will actually inspire my art?
Wow. Having the dedicated studio and then being surrounded by our community, like did it change anything internally or externally?
I think in little ways, because art for me is always coming from play inspiration. I think a lot of my art, like even when I was in Lethbridge, came from going to the national parks and like going to weird events and just like kind of engaging in maybe not the most like straightforward ways.
Mm.
And my art is really slow to make, so while I'm working through it, it will kind of like reveal itself to me. So sometimes, maybe a person I met or something that somebody said is going to come in and influence my art. And something that's nice about the residency aspect is like you kind of get out of the same headspace that everybody else around you is in. Like you get to go see something different. So I don't know if I have specific examples that come to mind of like a lightning bolt moment, but all these little experiences and moments that I still think about today and carry with me that influence my art.
That's so beautiful. How did you come up with the very unique sculpture idea? Like, how did it start?
Yeah, so it's mostly needle felting, but as I kind of get better at that, I dabble with adding more sort of different media. Like right now, I'm playing with paper clay and oil painting, but the needle felting thing started, I had an old needle felting sort of kit that I had gotten many years ago, and I didn't like it. And so I put it down. I made a little ugly fuzzy bunny rabbit, and okay, that's not really for me. But then I was feeling really, really burnt out a couple years later, and I was just kind of not feeling very connected to myself. And I kind of I wanted to make like a little me to make myself feel like I was real or something like that. So I ended up needle felting a like sculpture of me, and I it took off from there. I really liked it, and I still have my little me sculpture, and it's yeah, I just keep going bigger and bigger.
Wow. How big can it be?
Yeah, well, so far it kind of depends on some restraints, like do I have a place to show this? Do I have a place to make this? But my last piece that I did was a life-size centaur sculpture, so she was
Wow.
really big.
Did you make it during the residency or in your home studio?
I did. I made it during the really chilly one in the little shack where I had no heat. So
You were like stuck in the shack and then like you were just like making those.
yeah, and it was interesting because apparently it had been like a lending hub before. People could come and get food and puzzles and tools. So people were kind of weirded out by the fact that it wasn't for art anymore. But I found it was in a really one of the poorest neighborhoods in Victoria, which is in North Park. And I found like your sort of like working person was not happy about it. They were like had all sorts of weird things to say about it being an art studio. But I found that unhoused people were really excited about it, and getting to connect with them was really important. And they talked about how they never got to see art and how excited they were to see somebody doing something like this. And the fact that they felt like I was approachable made the whole experience feel really important to me.
Yeah, you're so sweet. But like because your artwork, your art making process is very specific. You need like specific ingredients and everything. Like how do you find the right residencies for you? Like do you go for like fabric only residency or like fiber related residencies? Like do you go for like specific ones or do you just browse through and then like willing to open up the opportunity for other kinds of art fields too?
Yeah, it's tough because I think calling myself a textile artist is like really puts me in a box in people's heads. I feel like textile, I usually go for sculpture if I'm defining it, just because it's, I don't know. I love textile art, but people don't take it seriously in the art world as much. So yeah, I'll generally kind of go for something that is usually pretty low cost. Application fees are fine. A small amount to pay is fine, depending how far it is away. But I feel like free is best. So I don't get very choosy with my art residencies. I usually bring most of my supplies with me. It's very light and easy to pack, so that is a huge bonus. But if I can get little things that feel important to the space while I'm there, I really love working that into like just like thread from somebody's grandmother or like beads that somebody has blown or something like that, or like yarn that somebody spun.
So sweet. So do you involve like people around you into your art making process quite often, or is it more like solitary experience that you do have like a lot of focus time?
Definitely more of a solitary experience. Just because I've got this one little tiny needle and I'm just creating this weird monster generally. But I do like, even when I'm not doing residency or not in my studio, I like to try to go out and be in the park or something making stuff, so that people will come and talk to me and I tell them about it. And I've even like met other cool artists or been recommended great artists just from sitting in the park and hanging out.
That's so cute. So you're sitting in the park and then you're just knitting and then like people come talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people are pretty intimidated but usually because I'm making like, you know, this 6 foot monster. But when people do, like especially when kids come over, it's great. I love it.
Oh my gosh, like such a lovely experience for the kids and for yourself too. What's your like future want to go residency list? Like any specific place, or do you have a long list, like short list?
There's this one I didn't get accepted for it this year, but I think I'm gonna have to apply for it every year until I eventually
Right.
do.
That's what I did
Um,
too.
it is in northern Sweden, so sort of like up closer to the fjord, past Stockholm, and it is this sort of monster mythology
What?
themed residency where you work. The art studios are in this like ancient castle, and where you stay is in like a little farmhouse outside of the castle, and it sounded so perfect for me. I'm gonna apply for it every time until I get it.
Yeah, that's so for you, right? The
Yeah,
monster, like.
it's really competitive because they pay a large stipend, but
Mm.
I would do it for free, but whatever.
Right. How do you like connect with other artists while you're doing the residency? How many people were there when you're there? Was it like alone or a few people, many people?
Yeah, I think that the castle one was a great example that had lots of people in it,
Right.
um, especially because the castle building's sort of downtown Lethbridge, so it's just an area a lot of people come through anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The Casa one or
yeah. So like downtown Lethbridge, and it's got all these like sort of cool little bars and other art galleries that are nearby, sort of near where a lot of people work. But I remember I was in the textile room, so there was weavers in there. So I had lots of weavers coming and talking to me. They also have this like
Mm.
incredible ceramic studio there. And so I was talking with a lot of the ceramicists, especially while I was getting into paper clay. And yeah, you know, I think most of the time I just will follow each other on social media and um, keep in touch through usually Instagram. I'm attempting to be better with TikTok though, so
Wow, TikToker.
yeah.
How many people were there at Casa when you were there?
I think I was the only artist in residence, but there was lots of artists every day coming in and out, just like because you rent the space. I think it's like $20 or a small membership fee.
Wow.
So probably most days I would go into work and there would be at least 3 artists, like ceramics, weavers, and lots of musicians. They have all these like music studios, so you can hear people playing in all the other rooms.
So cool. So it's like a communal like space for artists, like shared studio, open studio, like shared open space.
It was shared, but it felt like the weavers were sort of like they had this whole gate between their looms and me, so they were working fairly far away. It didn't feel super shared. But
Mm,
also sometimes my space, they'd be like, okay, well, we're teaching a sew-in class here on a Friday at 1:30, so you can't be here then. But otherwise, it was flexible.
okay. So you had like privacy and also had a connection with other people.
Yeah, and they had big windows on the studio space too, so like people would come by and like be like, ah, at, like what I was making, and I would like show it to them and stuff. So yeah.
You can see your studio through the windows, right? The big windows and so it was like you always had the open studio atmosphere, even though it was not the open studio day, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I got a lot of work done at Casa too, just because it was like so easy to just go in and end up working for 8 hours.
Oh, like, what did you make during the casa one?
Yeah, went, I ended up making more, like a whole piece that goes together because I was so effective while I was there, I guess.
Mm.
I wanted to make this pinned bug piece that is these pinned bugs trying to free this other bug that has been pinned to this, like one of those shadow boxes.
Mhm.
And it's got this frog that's sort of like looming over it. It's like looking how delicious the bugs are.
So many details.
Yeah, it's ultimately sort of a piece about how trans bodies are on display, and it's people are obsessed about trans body results through surgeries, and whether it's for good or for bad. But I ended up using bugs that were native to the area as well. So that was sort of my little nod to it being made in Lethbridge. And I was able to make this big mask piece that goes with it that is a frog as well. So sort of like you've got the frog above the bugs looking down at them, but then also you as the viewer wearing the frog mask is like being a participant in this sort of modern day circus.
Wow, that's deep. So, did you come up with the idea after starting the residency, or like before going to the residency, you researched all the local bugs and you just executed your plan?
The local bug thing hit me when we were walking through one of the national parks when I was there, but the pinned bug with the frog was my original pitched idea for CASA. I was kind of thinking fairies before I went, and then when I was there, I was like, oh, it should be bugs. Yeah.
When you're in the space, some ideas emerge, right?
Yeah. And that's another thing about it being nice, that it's a slow art form. It's like I feel like I can take the time to get the ideas right.
Right. And what about the final show? Like you said, they had a gallery and then you had a show at the end of the residency, maybe?
I didn't have a show at CASA. I had a show, I brought it back to Victoria and I showed it. People really delight in that piece because it's usually sort of not front and center in my shows, so that it'll suddenly sort of like jump out at people. But I did do an artist talk, I think, on one of my last days at Castle Lethbridge. And that was my first ever artist talk. I was nervous, but as somebody who's previously been a graphic designer, I was used to giving presentations and things like that for groups, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I met also really cool people came to the artist talk, and yeah, it was nice to be able to tell my story and have people who showed up and cared.
How did you start your story? Did you start from like how you became a full-time artist?
I started it with what initially inspired me to become an artist, which was it was still sort of lockdown. We weren't allowed to do indoor events. And there was this show at an art gallery that was being held in a parking lot in Victoria. And I decided to go. And I met these really cool people, and one of them was playing improv piano, Raquel, and she and another friend who was at that show were throwing on this thing called Pearlescence. It was going to be the first indoor show that we could run after COVID, and it was for queer artists, and it was supposed to be sort of about performance, the performance of making art. So we became friends. She had seen that I had made these needle felted sculptures, the one of me, and I had made maybe a couple others at the time. And she asked me to put together a sculpture for that show. So that's kind of where I started the talk at CATSA. And it was the first time anybody had ever sort of considered me as an artist. And it was like, I've also been to art school, but I had a lot of teachers tell me that I shouldn't be an artist. So I got really discouraged. But yeah, and then I realized, you know what? It's just about showing up and not quitting. So here I am.
Wait, that's an amazing way to start your story. And then like what an amazing start your career. I mean, like you got invited at a gallery from somebody that you just met, right? Like through your friends.
Yeah. And they were also like, you have any pieces? Come bring them to the show and we'll throw them in the auction. And so I put them up for auction in their silent auction, and they sold for way more than I ever thought I would get for them. And it just felt really nice.
But before going to the gallery, you were already producing your artworks, right? So that's why you were
a couple. I had maybe 5 smallish pieces at the time. So
wow. So it was kind of like your destiny, like to become an artist and then start showing your work like right after you started producing.
I feel like a lot of my clients have been like maybe underwhelmed. I don't know. So it felt really nice to have my art be really well received and have people be really excited about it. It felt like the first time like people had really seen my like creative voice for how I wanted them to see it.
I see. So you went to art school and then you decided to become a graphic designer because your professor said you're not going to be an artist.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Kind of.
I went to art school and then I took 2 years off because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this art degree. And then I ended up going to do communications and went, okay, this seems viable. And I graduated in the middle of the pandemic, and my life was very, very different a year in than it was when I graduated. And I love school. It's probably my biggest flaw. I just keep going back for more punishment, but um, it just felt like the safe thing to do, which I don't think really cultivates us as artists to do the safe thing.
Mm. Like, what advice or tips did you give to other artists, like who are still like hesitant to start a residency or adventure any kind of like jump to another different environment or different challenge?
Yeah, I think every artist knows exactly what they want to do. And whether you do it or not, it's going to haunt you until you do it, whether
Oh,
it's like getting around to drawing or like going for the residency. But just remember that I don't think that there's any such thing as bad decisions, because whatever decision you make, your life will grow around you.
that's so beautiful. That's coming from your own experience, right?
Yeah, like wanting to be an artist my whole life, having all these people tell me, like all these teachers, my friends have always been really supportive, luckily, but
No.
all these teachers saying, "What are you doing? This is terrible. This doesn't make any sense," and maybe not giving the most helpful constructive criticism to help me figure out how to tell a story, which is probably where going to communications came in handy. Is it really helped me learn the narrative of things. So that's another thing, is I don't think any time is ever wasted. I don't think that there's any mistakes. Failures are just lessons to learn from. All that sort of like cliche stuff is true. And I feel like it's gotten me exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
Wow. So were you knitting when you were in school too? And then those were the artworks that your teachers commented on, or like was it like totally different art pieces?
No, I didn't do any needle felting until that like I basically started with the sculpture of me, which was maybe 3 years ago now, 2.5. It'll be 3 in the summer. Before I was doing a lot of like pencil sketches and watercolor drawings, and I still don't think I'm the best illustrator in the world. um, and it doesn't really, but it has never really brought me joy to do. And I just felt like I knew I was creative and I knew I wanted to be creating something. And just the pencil to paper seemed like the easiest way to do it. But I don't know why it took me so long to realize that it just wasn't my medium.
Mm. So needle pelting, they're totally different from knitting, right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so needle felting is you'll take wool and
Uh-huh.
like a barbed needle. Hold on, I'll grab you what I'm working on right now.
Right.
So this is like part of a bigger piece I was working on today. So it's like an eyeball that
Oh,
I'm putting
wow.
together. But it's just wool with this needle that has little notches in it, and it
Huh?
basically mats the wool. So,
Ah,
and then you can use anything that's a natural fiber to do that. So you can use your cat's hair, you can use like people hair, whatever. I've got wool in here for the sort of veins for the eyeball.
uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, and it's relatively new. Well, credited for being relatively new. Sort of started in the 80s. So I feel very free working with needle felting because there's not as many set rules as there is with a lot of older art forms.
When did you find your medium, your right medium? Did the 2-year break help you or right after graduation?
Did from getting my design degree, and I had just split up with my long-term partner of 7 years, and COVID was raging, and I was supposed to move to Toronto, and that fell through because of COVID, and I got this design job, and it was stressing me out, and I was also getting all these freelance clients, and I was working like 60 hours a week, you know,
Oh,
like I don't know if you're familiar with these, but a lot of designers are like, if you're not working 60, 80 hours a week, you're not working hard enough, you don't want it enough. And I really like bought into that sort of grind mindset and was like, okay, I'll just keep going harder, 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 harder until I just like I couldn't anymore. And then that's when I was like, I guess I'll make a sculpture of me to bring myself peace because everything feels like it's falling apart. And then it worked.
I'm so glad that you found your way of recovering and then nurturing yourself, right? Oh my God,
And
grinding yourself is never the answer.
yeah, I don't know. My 20 something year old self thought that it was a great idea, but yeah,
Right.
the repetitive motion too, there's sort of like a tick, 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 tick of the
Yeah,
needle into the wool that I think just really helps like calm my mind, you know, just put on like a podcast or something and just like really get into it.
very meditating.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Are you like because you teach also, like what do your students feel about learning in the process?
Yeah, so I really love teaching. It's if I could do it more, I would. And I love teaching kids and adults. Kids, it's like you're teaching technique, but like adults, I like that it's you're reteaching them how to play.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends my age group for what class I'm teaching, but whatever I'm doing, I try to have people come up with their own thing that they're making. Because when you have like this little perfect demo,
Oh,
people, especially children, actually a lot of adults, honestly, too, will be comparing it to the demo. Something that I've made. I've been doing it for years. Obviously, mine's going to be cleaner or like have a trickier thing in it that they just want to get perfect that is not going to be perfect. So I try to like get people sketching and it loosens people up a lot. And I really want everyone to go home. Some people, even if they're like, okay, needle felting isn't my thing, I don't want them to think it's not their thing because they were frustrated.
oh, that's so great. Like
And so far, I think I've been pretty successful in that.
teaching.
I learned the hard way. Like at one point, I had like this little parrot that I got assigned by this wool shop that wanted me to teach, and I was like, okay, yeah, parrot, it'll be great. And then people were so hard on themselves about their parrot not being perfect.
They don't look like parrot. I totally get it. How can you balance out your teaching job with the future residency plan? Like, is it tricky to align?
Yeah, I think a lot of my teaching jobs that I do I'll get contacted by an organization generally and be asked to teach a couple classes or like one class. So luckily that's pretty flexible. I never want to turn them down if I get them, but sometimes, you know, it's like if I'm out of town, I have to. But yeah, I haven't gotten a gig at this point where it's like teaching at one set place for an extended period of time. So it's I feel like it's been perfect for me. Between the teaching jobs and stuff, there's also been like asking to show pieces and give talks, and it sort of all cobbles together to becoming a income that is workable.
Mm-hmm. I see. Are you like planning to come back to your studio space after Iceland one, or are you gonna try to stay in Europe as long as possible?
I think I'm gonna stay in Europe as long as I can. I'm currently waiting on hearing back about Canada has a youth work visa. Are you a Canadian citizen or?
No, I'm a Korean citizen.
Cool. Yeah, Canada has this great thing where it's like until you're 30 or 35 in certain countries, you can just kind of go work, play, stay with these visas for a year. So I'm getting that for Sweden, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
And then I'll try to work in Sweden. And my Swedish is terrible, so if I have to come back, then I will.
Still, you speak some. That's amazing.
Hardly. It's been I've learned I have a problem with like learning a little bit of a language and then using it when I need it and then completely abandoning it. But yeah, Swedish is hard because the alphabet looks so close, but is like half of the letters are said really, really different. So
Right, must be difficult.
but
Oh,
people like really speak English too. They just want
Right.
you to be fluent in Swedish for a job. So we'll see. Maybe I'll meet really cool artists and just like fall into some cool art thing. Who knows?
Right. Oh, why did you decide to go to Europe and then stay there as long as possible?
Yeah, it's something that I've always wanted to do. I was like born and raised in Victoria, and so I'm kind of living in my hometown, which feels a little bit lame to me, but also I don't really have any family here anymore. A lot of my family has either moved or passed away. So I've got friends and I've got great friends, but I don't really feel connected to Vancouver Islands. Um, it's sort of like as like a colonizer here, I think about that a lot and the sort of land back movement. And there's sort of like this homesickness that comes with being in a space that your ancestors have never been in. You have like no connection, and there's it's kind of sad. And I feel like not to like get too dark, but that's like the bigger point of like colonialism is to like remove people's like historical identities. So my in going to Europe, there's sort of this effort to reconnect with who my family is.
Mm. Do you have like any family member or friends there in Europe?
Yeah, I've got some. I'm adopted, so I've got like adoptive family in Scotland, and I have a really good friend in Sweden, which is why I picked Sweden. I was like, I've got one friend.
Right. One friend is just enough, right? It's
Yeah,
all that matters.
yeah. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to that. I think it'll be nice.
Oh, that's so awesome. It's so beautiful that you try to like reconnect to your roots and, you know, find more stronger like belonging, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, like it's so interesting to think about all the beautiful indigenous art that I've grown up around, but it's just, it's not part of my story. So yeah.
So your art is about your story because you're making your sculpture like yourself, like as a sculpture, and then trying to find more personal stories while traveling.
Yeah, and I often work with like creatures from folklore, so also getting to go to places and like hear the historical stories is something I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, like I make myself in my art, but I also aim to tell stories that are not as often heard in the art world in an effort to help people feel less alone.
I feel like you're gonna have a like full like strong series of new work pieces when you land in Europe and then like going to many different places and then come up with a very unique series of work, right?
Yeah, I definitely I want to have like one backpack for or one suitcase for clothes, and then my backpack just have wool in it so I can do needle felting.
Right. You're gonna just carry all the all the materials and then like just produce like whatever you go, right?
That's definitely what I want to try to do. So
Are you gonna post all the processes on TikTok or?
yeah, I know. I want to get. They have like the train pass, and I'm kind of thinking about getting like the unlimited train pass for a month and like just kind of going across.
Wow.
But I thought it'd be nice to like do sort of like soothing videos. I kind of want to do like relaxing crafting lives, but I have to make it to 1,000 followers on TikTok before I can do the lives. So that's my personal goal for the next few months is get that number up there.
You're gonna make a lot of content along the way too, right? Not just artworks.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to talk about like the other art that I encounter. I love going in art galleries and making like art gallery reviews and stuff. So
Oh my god, I'm definitely gonna follow you and say
yay! One more.
everybody just follow Monster Boy. Like, is the Monster Boy on TikTok too?
Yeah, it's like mon.stir.boy.
Right.
Which is maybe like a little convoluted, but I've got it now. I'm sticking with it.
Right. You're using the same account name like across the channel, so
Yeah. At least it's consistent.
right, easy to remember.
Yeah, that too. I know people are always like, "Do you want to be Noah Crowder or do you want to be Monster Boy?" And
Right.
I'm like, I feel like Monster Boy is more exciting. It's easier to remember.
Yeah. But people can call you Monster Boy all the time, right? Like because right. Do they call you Monster Boy all the time?
Some people like some of my friends will kind of do it like sort of like haha, like it's a little bit silly, but people who know me as an artist, like sometimes I'll run into people and they'll go, "Oh, you're Monster Boy. You're the guy with the big weird the snake thing or whatever." And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
So they don't know that you're Noah, but like they know you by the name Monster Boy.
Yeah, yeah, which I actually kind of like. I think it's funny. There's something more anonymous about it.
Oh, maybe that comes from your background in communication.
Maybe.
Like a good branding.
Yeah, and like I was also at the time when I was starting this art thing as my well, it still is. All my design stuff is under my actual name. So I was like, it's kind of confusing to do both at the same time. So I'll come up with something different.
Oh wow, interesting. So
Yeah.
different thing and then a different persona.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smart. Okay. So your plan is kind of like not no plan. Like just go there. Go there
Yeah.
and
I kind of have like
there.
locations
Yes.
in mind. But then I'm just gonna let go where the wind takes me, figure it out as I go.
Can't wait to see what's gonna unfold. In front of you in the new year, like this year and then next year. Probably you're gonna keep expanding and then like keep sharing your journey with us.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I just have to remember to actually make the video, shoot the video. I
Right.
do really enjoy making TikToks, but then I'm always like, oh, I forgot to film anything. I'm like just too in the moment.
Right. That happens too. I mean, like, I'm so glad that we got connected. And then thank you so much for your time. I mean, like, anything else that you want to talk about or anything else that you want to ask me or like other artists or anything you want to share?
Um, so this is like a new project you're starting, right?
Right. I just launched the platform like 1 month ago, and then I was just applying and applying and applying and then collecting all the information. And I was thinking, like, all the artists are doing the same thing. They're just trying to get as much information as possible before committing to like something like big, like flight booking and then like accommodation searching and then like, deciding which residency to apply for and then to pay for, right? Because most of the residencies, you have to pay for them. Like, I believe like it's based on my research, I think it's about like 80% of the residencies that you have to like basically pay for, like at least like minimum amount or like sometimes a large check. And then like I was like, as an emerging artist, so hard to get into the one that pays you like with stipend and grants. So I'm like, okay, this is so hard. And like if I'm paying for it, especially, I want to know what I'm getting into and then what I'm paying for. So I started looking for more reviews, and then I realized the only way to get a review is to ask artists, and then like through DMs and email them. Like it was like just like a lot of like work that you have to do. So I just decided to share that with
Yeah.
everybody. I believe it's going to be very helpful for each other, for everybody.
I think it's a really good idea, and I think I want to believe that this could bring in sort of a new wave of residencies, especially because I don't know about you, but like when I probably because I'm kind of in a small town, I want to go to like a big city. I want to meet people. I want to make connections, and I feel like so many residencies are like you're going to be in the middle of nowhere. You have to drive out here, and it's like a 3 month salary for you to come, and it's like why would I do that?
Yeah, it's
So
so hard. I think like so far I found like 2,000 residencies, I think like just here and there on different platforms. So hard to find like aggregated information, structured and categorized in a way that really helps artists to find the right ones for them, because we can't possibly go to everywhere. We have to make a smart choices. And yeah, it's just too difficult right now. And I think like there are many people who are like testing their own residency model too. So all the structures
Mm.
are not really like uniform. They're like all different kinds of like ununified, unique offerings that they have. So you have to really, really look at details. And I think it's a good thing that a lot of like property owners or like even like hotels and resorts, they want to invite artists to make the place cooler, I think. And then that's really great movement. But I think like we need more information, structured information on them.
Yeah, agreed. Otherwise, yeah, okay. I'm gonna say another thing.
Yes,
If
please.
there's any artists listening to this podcast today and they are feeling like they're not making enough or they're not doing enough, just get out there. Just do it. You can do it and it's going to be fine and
Oh,
your passion is going to be what catches you. Don't worry about it.
that's so great. I'm gonna take it to my heart. I needed that. Thank you so much, Noah. I don't know if it's right to call you Noah or Monster Boy right now, but
Thank you so much, Jay. And thank you for reaching out to me. And yeah, this is going to be great.
I wonder if you're gonna be there when I get to Vancouver. I'm gonna land in Vancouver on February 21st. So
I might be around for sure.
Mhm.
Vancouver and I don't have the best relationship. Every time I go, I witness something terrifying and I'm like, why do I ever come to this city? But
Oh,
I have family who live there and they love it and they live for it. Like people love Vancouver. They'll die for Vancouver. So I'm like, all right, it's got a lot of fans.
I'm going to Vancouver Island. Yeah, right after landing in Vancouver. But yeah, I don't
Right. Oh yeah, where on the island are you coming?
no idea. It's my first time to go there, so I can send you the location of the residency. I'm not sure if you are free to travel to come to Island. Is it close enough, or like if not, I
Right.
can probably go. Like
It's probably
Mhm.
it's like if it's like there's most of the towns on Vancouver Island are within at least 3 hours of each other.
All right.
Farther than that, if you're like on the 6 hour end of the island in the middle of nowhere, that might not happen.
Really? It's
But
so
there's also
fun.
certain towns you can only reach by plane. So
Oh my gosh. I don't think I can reach to the place where I can go in a flight only. Yeah. It was so confusing. I mean, like I was like even like confused about all different kinds of airports that you have like in, BC. And then it was like there were like three different like airports. And then like which one like should I get like to get in from Korea and then to get out to New York? And it was very tricky.
yeah,
I need to catch a ferry and then like, okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
carry two suitcases, one full of fabric and materials, and then like the other one with my clothes, like for winter or I don't know for which season even. So like,
yeah. It's hard to say. In February, it could be hot. It could be like 15. Cherry blossoms could be out, or it might be snowing.
right? It's so random. I know. Well, I'll be ready for anything. So everything will be fine. But I really, really hope that we catch up.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, most of the island, like I sort of travel regularly, so there's probably going to be a chance to visit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Noah. And then stay safe. And then the best of wishes, the best of luck, like for all your future to go residencies and your plan to travel Europe.
Thank you. You too. You're going to have big things happening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Reviewed by Artists. As we talk through the artistic path with Noah, Monster Boy, I hope you're encouraged to go out and create. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts with us for more stories. I'm Jay, looking forward to seeing you next time.